Hello and welcome to another edition of Verge's Alternative F1 podcast. I'm Andre Dixon and I'm usually joined by my band of friends, amigos, chums, Sam Wilson and Matthew Connell. How are you guys?
Doing good. We're doing good.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, and we have got a very, very, very special guest today. Hugely respected F1 photographer, Kym Illman. How are you, sir?
I'm relaxed and enjoying some fresh weather in Perth, Western Australia.
I'll tell you what,
rubbing it in.
I think we must be going toe to toe with this weather over here at the moment. I'll tell you, it's we're getting blitzed with some heat over here.
I think
and of
for
course
us,
your heat is nothing like our heat. And I've been in Silverstone was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and we stayed at the Premier Inn near the track at Silverstone. It was stinking hot, and they have no air conditioning, and it was very uncomfortable.
You feel our pain.
I think our heat is a bit like our heat is probably winter breakfast heat right now. We think it's hot, but it can't compare.
And it's so muggy, and then all of us wake up in the morning complaining of how hot it is. And realistically, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad, but we're just.
and then we won't complain too much because you know what's going to be coming soon. It'll be the rain and overcast weather, and we'll be back to normal. So I'll try not to complain too much. But before we get really delving into Kym's amazing career, let's have a chat with our lovely sponsors.
Of course, thank you, Dre. So, of course, another exciting episode we've got on our hands. But, of course, as ever, this podcast is brought to you by Natural Barber. So make sure that you get a load of naturalbarber.com. Sadly, today I'm wearing a hat because, of course, the time difference is here. It's too early for me to get my hair done, but I can assure you that Natural Barber are the way to go. Free of synthetics, free of petrochemicals, and other harmful ingredients that irritate your skin. Even the great Welshman footballer Gareth Bale of Real Madrid calls it his go-to hair product. So if you shop now, you get 25% off, free next day delivery. Sorry, Australia, but that's for UK only. Using the code ALTSPORT25. But nevertheless, I'm very much sure that you can still order, just minus the perks if you're listening in Australia. But Dre, my man, back to you.
So, I mean, Kym, thank you so much for taking your time out to be able to have a chat with us. Been looking through your pictures. And they are absolutely amazing. You put your Instagram is ridiculous. Like it's so amazing as well. Yeah, I'm a big Instagram picture addict. So definitely it's it's an honor to be able to speak to you and to get some tips as well.
Far away.
So to jump straight in, Kym, where did your passion for Formula One come from? Like where are your earliest memories? Was it from Australia, racing in Australia, or was it from seeing it on TV? Or
it would have been the Adelaide Grand Prix when I was probably a teenager, maybe early 20s, and I'm an Adelaide boy, so it was quite exciting to have that in our hometown. And then I moved to Darwin, did 5 years on radio. Then I came to Perth, where I've lived for the last 30 plus years. But I used to go to a couple of events from Perth. I'd fly over for the Australian Grand Prix in Adelaide. And that's where I recently put up a picture of Ayrton Senna. I didn't think I had any pics of him, but my wife was flicking through some old pictures, actual prints, and she found a couple. So that was interesting. And I'll tell you about one interesting night there. I went to dinner at La Casalinga, an Italian restaurant, and I got there about 7 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, in comes Damon Hill, Jackie Stewart, Johnny Herbert, and George Harrison. And they sit down at a table in a corner, and I thought, shit, what am I doing here? I'm going back to the track. I'm getting an Adelaide Alive poster, and I'm bringing it back. And I got back, and all these people were going up and bothering these people while they were dining, and they were just getting turned away. And I thought, right, I'll just wait till the very last minute, and I did. And as soon as the guys had finished dinner, and they got up to leave, I raced out, and there was a cold night, I think, and I was out the front. I was the only one there, and it was a table in an al fresco area, no one sitting there. And I said, oh, boys, can I get a quick signature on your way out? And they all stopped, signed it for me. So yeah, that's a really beautiful piece and a great memory from back in Adelaide.
Is that's where your passion came from? That's why you decided to kind of focus on?
No, I liked Formula One. I never loved it. I didn't probably have much to do with it for a number of years. I actually, no, tell a lie. I did 3 great promotional stunts with my company, Messages on Hold. I've got, at one stage we had 100 staff. We're back to about 50 now. And we're based in Perth, and we do audio productions for businesses. And people listen to them when they're on hold. And I was the king of ambush marketing in Australia. So I went to 3 Grand Prix in Melbourne. And in the first year, I got really pally with the people from Arrows. And I said, I've got this girl, she's going to be nude but a G-string, she's going to be body painted. Can we bring her into the garage? They said, yes. So we did this promotional stunt, got me huge exposure. I said, let's do another one the next year. Did one the next year with a girl with tyre tracks across her body while she was wearing a bikini. And then the third year, I made this dress out of these little tiny tyres that I got from, it was an Italian model car company, and they sent it across, and all they wanted was their logo on the girl along with mine. So yeah, so that I quite enjoyed that, but then I didn't have much to do with it for a while. And then I went to the 2016, I went to a few races, but I never really loved it. A couple of corporate boxes, which was always the fun part. And then I went to the 2016 Abu Dhabi GP as a guest at Red Bull and paid the big money. And then I was standing in the garage, I had the headphones on, listening to Daniel, talking to his race engineer. It was all very quiet and calm. And that was the moment I thought, yeah, I really love this. I should go and photograph this, because I'd spent probably half a year, over 2.5 years in Africa, photographing for a book called Africa on Safari. That was picked up by National Geographic, and it was a great thing to be able to put a book together like that. And I think that's probably what got me my entree into F1, because as soon as I got back to Australia after that Abu Dhabi GP, I inquired and said, look, I'd like to get media accreditation. I sent them an interesting pack. I told them what I thought I could do for the sport. And luckily, I think I got the right guy at the right time. And his decision, and he will tell people that he's very happy with his decision, because it turned out to be a positive one, because pretty much I work for F1 without being paid, because I'm promoting the sport out there through Instagram. And really, I only came across Instagram probably 5 races from the end of 2018. I hated it. I absolutely hated Instagram.
Really?
And then I could see these other guys and they were putting their pics up. I thought, oh, maybe I should try it. Well, it's absolutely fascinated me. And I think I've come into quite my own niche. I went from 1,850 followers to today it's 115,500. And just pure organic growth. Never purchased a follower, never did an ad or anything. It's just purely organic.
I'm going to say that's the power of, I guess, resilience, natural art, and just having a skill that is so rewarding for many. And of course, you know, if you look at the people that also follow you, of course, you're followed by some of the races. Of course, that respect is there and that appreciation, because of course, the world of photography is one to be truly respected. But you know, I feel it feels weird I could even claim that I even take photos, because me being a video guy, you find yourself being asked to incorporate photo in some sense. So there's me running around like an idiot with a 5D, trying my best to be like, well, it was easier for me with video. How come I can't do this with stills? But for yourself, I find there's always a certain spark that is very similar with my kind of more entrepreneurial friends and photography. And of course, you've crossed both of those lines in a sense. So for yourself, was getting into photography part of a kind of creative spark that was always within you? And, you know, how did that journey from what you've done before lead to that photography moment?
Okay, so I built a house 90 minutes north of Perth on the beach at Lancelin. It's a small town, 700 people there, not much to do. In fact, there's very little to do. It's mainly outdoor activities. And so I decided, I'll start promoting that town, because I had a lot of spare time. Every weekend I go up there. In fact, I have not spent a weekend in Perth for 10 years, and I don't intend to ever spend a weekend in Perth unless there's something on that I have to stay for. So I just decided I'd go and photograph this place to kill time. And then my photography got better and I got more passionate about it and tried different things. And then, of course, I decided, after my wife demanded that we go to Africa on a safari, having suggested it for 20 years and me constantly knocking back, one day she just said, right, I booked the tickets, you arrange the rest, we're going. So I said, okay. So the 4 of us, my 2 boys and I and Tonya went. And so that enabled me to do a lot more photography and some interesting stuff. I had a remote control buggy and I would drive it up near lions and different wildlife, and that was fascinating. And then when I finished with that and I got stuck into F1, I wanted to try different stuff. So I think what I fell into with my F1 stuff was there's so many better photographers of cars that I was never going to compete in that realm. And really, those blokes have done it for 20 and 30, 40 years. So they're always going to be better than me, having done it for, when I did my first race, I'd never, ever photographed a car at a racetrack, not once. So, I tend to focus on people now, and I look for the story and I look for the emotional moment. And then sometimes I'll see someone like Charles after his Monza win and walking this way in the paddock, and then you get Mattia Binotto walking this way, and you think, oh, they're going to catch up and they're going to have a hug. Right, so I've got to get on the right side and I race around. And there's always this mad sprint and dash to make sure you're in the right spot. And hopefully there's not too many other photographers or punters around. But yeah, it's a real challenge to identify what the moment is. And that's why I like going out the back of the FIA garage after a session, because there's no one there except me in terms of photography. Everyone else after the race is out the front and they're getting the glamour shot of the top three. So you'll have 120 photographers taking a photo of 3 people, and me out the back, 1 photographer taking shots of sometimes up to 17. So it's a feast of photography that I get all to myself. So that's what I tend to look for, interesting stuff in the people story.
And I guess in a way that's almost like a sixth sense as well, because I always find when I film musicians, it's almost like an air of spontaneity, but I feel like you very naturally within many races, many paddocks, of course for yourself in this example, that moment just comes and you have that certain sense. Now for yourself, was that something that came to you from being inspired by photographers, or was that just something that you felt like in an instinct, that's the thing that catches your eye, that's what always interested you?
I don't even know how it comes about. I think there's such lengthy times of waiting in the paddock that you just are hoping for something to happen, and you see something happen, you react quickly and you hope it's going to be something interesting. But look, I don't think I was inspired by anyone in F1 because I really hadn't seen that many photos. It wasn't until I started in the sport that I took notice of what other people were doing. And certainly I learn a lot when I look at particularly Instagram during a race, and I'll see, oh, Mark Thompson's shot that shot from underneath there. That's a good idea. Oh, Clive Mason shot that one from the trees. Or Zach Malga's done this. So I will tend to take note of what they're doing. And you're mad not to, because these guys have done it for a long time and they know the good spots. And really, there's only a certain number of spots that you can shoot a car from when it's going around a track. So, yeah, I tend to take a note of what they're doing. But as much as I can, I'll go and try and find my own thing. But as I said, look, I will spend right up until the drivers go into the garage before a session in the paddock. Whereas most of the other photographers, some of them go out 40 minutes before the session starts because they have to get a bus. And to go to the far end of the track to get their glamour shot of the car, they have to miss 40 minutes of paddock action, which I would hate doing because I'll get so many great photos of people in the paddock in that 40 minutes. And then, of course, sometimes it's 40 minutes to get back afterwards. So that they're losing an hour and 20 minutes to shoot great pictures of cars on track. And for my mind, that's their beauty. That's what they're really good at, and they need to put that effort in. Whereas I just want to stay in the paddock until the very last minute, and I want to come back to the paddock as the drivers are coming out of the garage.
So, it's. I think people underestimate the kind of the scale of these F1 races and the size of these paddocks. But before we dip more into the world of Formula One, can you remember what was your first kind of camera setup when you first truly felt like, and this isn't all of photography, what was your kind of first setup where you felt, aha, this is my first kind of pro get up, and you felt like, right, I'm really doing this?
Well, you're talking about the camera kit itself?
Yeah.
Well, when I started in F1, I just went out and bought 2. Actually, no, I might have had some 1DX Mark IIs for my wildlife stuff.
Yeah.
One Mark 1, that's right, for my wildlife stuff. I did have 2 actually, and my wife had a 5D or 5D Mark III. So we'd take 3 cameras and lots of lenses. And of course, when I finished that, I thought, well, I got these cameras, they can do F1, that's great. And then I think at some stage they released the Mark II, and my wife said, I'm going to get you that. And I said, that's a waste of time. These are perfectly fine. She gets me the Mark II, and I won't touch the Mark Is again. And then I've bought myself a Mark III now, and I won't touch the Mark II. So, once you get that new bit of kit in your hand and you understand how it works, you don't want to go back to anything less. And then things have changed very dramatically too, just in the 3 years that I've been there. But as you probably realise, with F1, certainly for the stuff I do, my real niche is getting stuff up quickly. And I'll take a photo, say, of, where was I? I can't remember, one race. And if the internet is great, I'm in Parc Fermé, winning driver gets back, does his big jump, I get the shot. Now that gives me probably 3-4 minutes between them leaving Parc Fermé in the cool down room, toweling up and having a drink, and then they come out for the podium. So I've got 3 or 4 minutes. And if the internet's good, I can export a picture from my camera. I can write a short caption. Sometimes I've already pre-written the caption anyway, because you know that Lewis is going to win, so you write that ahead of time. And I can have that up on Instagram within 3 minutes, sometimes 4. Sometimes it's the internet's terrible and it's going to be half an hour. But the ability to get that up quickly means that people hopefully go, right, well, the race has just been won, let's see what Kym's got, and they go and look for my stuff. That's what I want them to think and be looking for.
Yeah, I was looking up, some more information about you because I find you quite fascinating, and it mentioned in some of your sites and so forth that you only turned on to photography for F1 in 2017. So that wasn't too long ago, which is like, if you think about it, like how far you've come. But you was briefly photographer in the wildlife industry. What was those experiences like? Was it like really life-changing seeing the comparison between wildlife and what you're doing now?
Let me state straight up, there's a lot of parallels between wildlife and F1, and it is the waiting. It is waiting and waiting with wildlife. Sometimes it'll be 2 hours for some bloody lion to get up and do something, and you just sit there and you look at it every now and then. Of course, if you're not paying attention, you've invested 2 hours and you miss the moment. And it's very much like that with F1, particularly with Lewis. You know that he is very rarely in the paddock, and when he is, he's only there for a short time. He's normally on a scooter, and he doesn't want to be hanging around there any length of time. So there's this tremendous anticipation, and if once you've invested a reasonable length of time, and you don't want to miss the shot. But I think I'm lucky that I have good relationships with a number of trainers and certainly people in teams, whereby they'll see me waiting and they'll go, it'll be 20 minutes. Okay, thanks. I'm going to get 2 more shots, come back in 15 and know that I'm going to get that shot. And I tend to look for those relationships and do as much as I can for those people, because I know that they're more than happy to do something for me.
I mean, that's one of the things that I find really interesting about your pictures, is like they all tell a really good story, and as I said, like what I noticed, that you don't take pictures of just the car and what everyone else does. It's like the people and the story and the relationships and all those types of things as well. So yeah, hats off to you. But as you mentioned before, was that was the conscious decision to be able to concentrate on the stories, rather than the cars? How did you
okay, so
come to that?
The first season, I went along, I got accredited, I did testing in Barcelona, which was just a mind blower. I got no idea what I'm doing. And then I go to Melbourne, and I get Melbourne, because the first year you get accredited race by race. So you don't know whether you're going to be accredited for the race in 2 weeks' time. You can be in Europe and you're still keeping your fingers crossed you're going to be accredited. But I got accredited for every race, and that allowed me to obviously, I do the first race in Melbourne, and I follow a couple of guys around, and I get a bit of a feel. Do the second race in China, and then I had to go to Bahrain for the third race, and I was standing next to Mark Sutton from Sutton Images, and Mark's just had a chat with a guy, and he obviously wanted some images from this guy, and he wasn't able to help, and he looked a bit flustered, and I said, Mark, can I help you? He goes, yeah, do you want to shoot for us? I said, yeah, okay. That's how that came about. I got to shoot for one of the great agencies in my first year. So that was a very quick learning experience. And I didn't touch Instagram there because I was just focused on going and getting the shots that the Suttons wanted as part of the brief. Second year, I thought, I'll just do 6 races. That'll be enough. I've wasted enough money on this. And I did 6 races. No, I think I did the first 2 and thought, oh, bugger, I might do some more. So I started booking more and more. And I did all but 1. I did all but 3 that year. That's right. And towards the end of the year, as I said, I started getting involved in Instagram. And then at the end of the year, I thought, right, next year I'm going to do everything. And I did all the races last year except Canada, because that's a bastard to get to from here. And this year I'd planned to do every single one of them until COVID hit. And it's only allowed for, say, 20 to 25 photographers allowed at each race. And they have to be either a large agency or one photographer per garage. So that was pretty disappointing, but there's some things I wouldn't have got the shots this year that I would normally get, because you're not allowed to stand in the paddock and wait for drivers. The drivers don't stand around. There's no public. They're all wearing masks. So really, as much as I would love to be there, I'm not missing out on much.
Yeah.
So when you say about doing so many races a year, being in Australia, that must be quite difficult for travel, because if you live in the UK or France or something like that, you've got 9 races in Europe that's quite easy to get to. With Australia, You've got 1, and then the rest of the world, you've got to take almost a 12-hour flight to get to.
Yep.
How does that impact? How does being in Australia make Formula One a different sport to work in comparison to what else is available in Australia?
Yeah, the travel is considerably longer, more expensive. Look, I have loved the travel, I must admit. I tend to go business, so it's not uncomfortable. And most of the time I'll do, like some of the Europe stuff, I might do 4 races in 5 weeks and then come back for 10 days and then go back for, I think I did 3, last year I did 3 Europe trips. So I did them in 3 blocks. And then the stuff with like America, you go for 2 races, Brazil and Abu Dhabi you go. So they're normally at least 2 races together. Yes, if I lived in England, if I lived in France, that would be fantastic. But I haven't got 50 staff in England or France. I got 50 here. So I've got to keep coming back just to keep an eye on this. But yeah, look, I'm not complaining.
Nah. Which is your favourite, if you were to do a stint, if you were only to choose one of your stints, so whether it's the US and Canada, or whether it's Europe, or whether it's Asia, which is your favourite like area of the country to go to, or the world, sorry?
Well, the 2 in a row that I love are Brazil and Abu Dhabi. And I like Brazil mainly because of the hotel. It's one of the best hotels in the world. I like Abu Dhabi because it's last race of the year and it's a lovely atmosphere. And then you get testing afterwards. And I really love testing because of the fact that there are no spectators in post-season testing. You get everyone to yourself. The drivers are relaxed. You get hours to shoot them on track because they're out on track for 12 hours. You get shots completely different than you would normally get. And there's a great example at... in fact, I won't share the screen. There's a great example of a shot at the bottom of pit exit where you shoot up at the cars coming down the hill. And if you get there 30 minutes before the end of the session during post-season testing, the sky goes orange sometimes, and you don't have that wire running across the top that they put in there during the race, because that carries that camera that runs up and down the pits and carries that vision. So it's a really remarkable shot that if you ever see that shot, it's either been photoshopped if it's got no wire, or it's taken at testing. So yeah, those 2, and I don't mind America and Mexico. Long trips for me, but great races. Like I can probably leave a lot of the European races because I don't love the accommodation. I don't love where they are. Like for instance, in Spa, there's not much around there. Austria, nice mountains, but to stay anywhere decent, you've got to go back to Graz or do an Airbnb close by. I like the stuff like Singapore, where there's beautiful hotels. Brazil, where you've got great people and a great atmosphere. And Monaco, except for the price of accommodation, there's no resemblance to real life to me.
Yeah, just quickly, like what's because we always have this ongoing debate about that being an interesting race or not. I was surprised that Monaco, because you take so many pictures of people, families, and you know the whole story around the actual race. I thought that would have been your number 1.
Monaco is fantastic, and it's easy to get around the track. So I can walk from the paddock to the top end of the track in maybe 13 minutes. You can't do that at France. It's Baku. It's even longer. But there's so much happening. There's great backgrounds. You can shoot from buildings. You can get low. You can get within this far of a car with a camera. You can't do that. Can you do it at another track? Certainly, there might be 1 or 2 other opportunities, but Monaco is really an amazing opportunity. And the paddock is interesting because it is maybe a 200-metre walk from the garages. So normally a driver will walk from his hospitality suite to the garage in the paddock, in a normal paddock in Europe, and maybe it's a 25-metre walk, maybe 50 tops. Here it's 200, and that's a long time to be able to shoot someone like Lewis or Seb or Charles, are harder to find drivers. And yeah, that's a really great opportunity. And those buildings in the background make for some lovely shots. And the tunnel, gosh, I love the tunnel.
Really, we haven't gone to Monaco as yet, so we will be getting your tips.
I'll stay on a boat. Go and rent a big boat and stay next to the water. If you can afford that, that is the most remarkable thing in the world. But it's the price of a small car.
I think we can see how the budget holds up for that. So tell me about like a typical race weekend. What's that like for you?
Rightio. So I'll arrive into wherever it is on a Wednesday afternoon. Sometimes I go to the track and get a locker and a desk at the media centre on a Wednesday afternoon. But otherwise, it's early Thursday morning. And if we take a day race, it might be arrive at 8 o'clock, get set up in the media centre with your computer and everything. Unless you're in Italy or Brazil, there's a couple where you don't leave your stuff out. You've got to hide it away because stuff gets stolen. Then I'll go out and I'll wait for drivers to arrive, and then all of Thursday is track walks, media interviews, stuff in the paddock, cars going up to be scrutineered. So there's not that much on track, and it's certainly closed for a couple of hours when they do the test. So that's Thursday. Friday is our busiest day. Get there early, drivers arriving, do FP1, go back to the media centre, edit, post, do FP2, go back to the media centre, edit, post, hang around for Friday afternoon or evening drivers briefing. Sometimes I'll stay until they finish that, and then go back to the hotel. And it's been a very hard day. Saturday, a little bit easier. Get there, do drivers' arrivals, obviously FP3, put a few photos up, quali, put a few photos up, and then hang around afterwards for the atmosphere. Saturday afternoon is easily the best atmosphere in the paddock because everyone's relaxed. No one's packing up like on Sunday afternoon, because once the race starts in the paddock on a Sunday, they're packing up. And it's crazy. There's forklifts going there. The race is still going, and there's forklifts and people moving stuff. But yes, Sunday's a lovely day. Obviously, you get a race and you get all that lovely emotion, but you also get the drivers going out and doing the parade in a normal year. You'll get them arriving. You'll get lots of celebrities. And then at the end of the day, you do your picks, get them up, and then I go back to the hotel and do a blog or a video. And Monday you relax or head home if it's not a back-to-back.
We had our first working day at Silverstone last year when we first kind of started covering F1, on our platforms. And what struck me is just as you said, like just how busy it is. Like it's like, for those who don't get to go to behind the paddock, like it's literally people moving. It's like ants. Everyone's moving around. There's lots of things happening. When you'll see the drivers really quickly, but they're on the move. They're very trained to be able to take pictures really quickly with fans that are walking alongside them, just doing that really quickly, the selfies. So it's quite interesting to be able to see the whole mechanics of everything going on. But like, how do you structure your race? Do you start at the first corner and capture the first shot and then make your round to the rest of the track? Or do you...
It depends. It depends. Sometimes I can't get onto the podium at the tower at the first corner because the smaller towers, all the major agencies get as a matter of course, and there might be no room left. So then it's a matter of where do I go to get a shot. But I tend to stay... I don't go to the far reaches of the track as a rule because I don't want to miss too much time shooting. So I will stay reasonably close to the first or the last corner or the paddock. And yeah, most of the time it's at the first corner somewhere. I might go to the second corner. There's no plan, and there's no allocating by the FIA or F1. It's just you go wherever you want, wherever you're allowed to go. We're allowed into the pits one session per weekend. You get a special tabard. But during a race and qualifying, there's only, I'm guessing, 8 or so photographers allowed into the pits to shoot. And they're allowed on the pit wall, but that's a really coveted spot to shoot from. Although having said that, for most of the race, nothing happens in there. But of course, when something does happen, it's frenetic and it's a great photo. But I tend to think you probably get more in terms of more shots when you're out on the track roaming around. Sometimes at the tracks we have buses that take us, and Barcelona coming up this weekend, if I was there, you can get the bus from anywhere on the inside of the track or the outside of the track, and they just circle. So you can go from one end of the track to the other in a few minutes, and it allows you to get a variety of shots.
Amazing.
Does that bus go round throughout the race? Can you just jump on and off whenever you want?
Correct. Singapore doesn't have a bus. Certainly Melbourne doesn't have a bus. Those tracks you have to go out 40 minutes before because they go onto the racetrack and drop you off, then you climb over the fence. Baku's the same. But there are a number of tracks. France is another good one because that's got a bus inside and out. What other ones? Belgium has a bus, yeah. So the ones that have buses, that's fantastic.
I'm definitely going to be looking out for the bus next time. It's been well. Yeah. So going through your Instagram and your YouTube, you've made quite a few videos and different content series. I mean, the one about the wives and girlfriends of F1 seems to have been the most popular. How did it come about? When did you kind of go, I'm going to introduce everyone in the world to the girlfriends of F1? And like, why do you think it's the most popular on your YouTube?
Let me backtrack a little bit. My 19-year-old son loves YouTube, and he's just on at me all the time over the space of probably 4 or 5 months. You got to do YouTube. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I can't imagine what I would report on, how it would work. And I just put him off until I thought, oh no, I'll do it. And I can't, that wasn't my first video, but it was certainly one of the earlier ones. And look, I know, not all of them, but I know some of them quite well. And they're great ladies. And a couple of them in particular would often ask for me, where's Kym? Where's Kym? That's great when they're looking for you, because they know that if I take a good photo, they'll see it quickly, or certainly within a day. Otherwise, they think, 20 people took photos. Where do I see them? No, I don't know where to look for them. So I got into this thing where I thought, well, let's do wives and girlfriends because it's interesting. So I did the video and I put it up. Well, I reckon within 3 weeks, Charles had split up with Giada. 6 weeks later, another couple parted. 8 weeks later, Valtteri and his girlfriend, his wife parted. And I think, and then Pierre Gasly and Kate just don't have time at the moment. So I don't know whether they've officially broken up or whether they're just not together. But yeah, so that's quite outdated. And people keep saying, do a new one. But I go, well, really, I don't think Pierre's got a new girlfriend. Valtteri is obvious with his Australian girlfriend, and she's from the same city as me. That's great. And I had a quick chat with her, but I've got all of 3 photos of her. So I probably think that I'm not in the right position yet to be updating that one. Although I'd like to, because that's had 800 and something thousand views and continues to be a nice little earner.
It's crazy it is something, a different side of F1 that you never really see. And I think your content that you produce, especially the paddock, has definitely introduced more people to that. But with your YouTube, obviously your son got you into it, but has your passion for making content and having more people engaging with your videos and your photography, has that grown since you started doing it? Like your knowledge of the sport has got better, obviously, the longer you spend in the paddock. But do you now enjoy YouTube more than photography, or are you still photography number one?
I hate YouTube. I hate doing it. It's because I sit in this little studio here, and I'll give you an example. I did a video yesterday. I put it up on George Russell. But I came in the day before and I had it all prepared and I recorded it all, 40 minutes, went out, started looking at it. Audio is too distorted. And I run an audio production company. I should know better. So I came back in here, I fixed that up, and I did it a second time, another 38 minutes. Went back out there. Now, Mike's scraping on the shirt this time. And then I went and did it again yesterday and bowled it. But it just takes forever. And really, if you said, look, here's how much you're going to make per hour for all the effort you spend on it, you'd never do it. But of course, there's more. There's a rub off where YouTube people come to Insta and Insta go to YouTube. And I went very quickly from no one on YouTube to 30,000. Then it's bumped up recently with this last video. No, the one I did on drivers' dads has been a real good winner. People love that sort of stuff. And I think why hasn't anyone else done this? I don't know. But I do think that there's one thing that, because I perhaps don't have the same pressures, if I was shooting for a team or I was shooting for a sponsor, I'd have to go and do this. I have to be there at 2:00 and there at 3:00. You got guests over there having champagne. I've got to shoot that. You've got to have table settings in the function room. Got to shoot that. I don't have those pressures. So for me, I get the opportunity to focus on the stuff that I think is interesting for the audience, that I expose my images to. So for that, yeah, I'm pretty lucky that I have that opportunity. I don't think I could do what I do if I had the pressures of working for a team or working for anyone in particular.
I kind of envy you in some sense. Maybe this is kind of part why we create this podcast, creating our content around the sport. Because for myself, I've been very lucky to spend time around the Mercedes team and Ferraris, of course, being in and around a lot of branded content when obviously Charles was coming over and Ferrari would make him do all this kind of stuff. Of course, boasts of Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, I can see where you that need for the freedom is so important, because in video and photos, you want to be as expressive as possible without any kind of limitations. But for yourself, when it comes to doing photos, we're going to save you now from the YouTube stuff and bring it back to photography. But is there a certain magic, or is there a certain maybe personality or driver that you feel when you're in the paddock, no matter what you do, you always get a good picture of them? Because I always find for myself that for some reason, there might be some people I can video very well, but when it comes to them wanting a good photo, I never quite have that chemistry magic. But then there are some people I found, we did a shoot with Valtteri Bottas in Monaco, and him training outdoors. And I don't know how, but I could take a nice photo of Valtteri, but maybe my friends who are musicians would be like, why don't you take photos of us like that? So do you have those certain kind of connections with certain drivers for yourself?
Yeah. Nico was the best, and I, over the space of probably the first half of 2019, I got to know him pretty well, and he would look for me. And the beauty of knowing a driver is if there's 10 photographers, he knows you, he'll smile, he'll do this, or he'll make some funny face, or he'll come up and knock my hat off, or he'll goose me, all that sort of stuff. And that works well for him, because he's going to get a better photo. He's going to see better photos from me of him. I'm going to certainly get better photos and have a better understanding of him. And I really like that. But having said that, I get some great photos of this man, Daniel Ricciardo, because he is such a good character. And when you know someone and they see you and they do the cheers there, or some other stuff where he actually, this one here, where he's acknowledging me and having fun, that's what people want to see. You can buy these books too. They're fantastic.
Where can you get them?
KymIllman.com, and they're custom printed, every single one of them. So the beauty of that is probably when you do a book, you don't make any money until the last book. Whereas this, you make it straight away. And if I only sell one Daniel Kvyat book, I only have to print one. That's what I love. But yeah, if I look at someone like a Lance Stroll, I don't know Lance. I've never really, I don't think I've spoken to him once, but just briefly. And so I don't expect to get a great photo from him. And Max, I know he would know of me, but I've never really had much time spent with him. So I tend to not get great photos of him. But you know, Lando, I don't know Lando a little bit, so I get good photos. And Pierre, I know quite well. I shot him away from the track. Daniil Kvyat, I know a bit, so I'll get a smile. And that's what I'm disappointed I'm not there this year to further those relationships. But yeah, hopefully someone's come up with a virus by 2021. A vaccine.
Anything, you never know. There's been too many twists and turns. There's been too many twists and turns that we can't guess this world anymore. Who was the first Formula One racer that you felt truly appreciated on a personal level your work?
I don't know whether it's the first, but I was at testing last year, end of season testing, and Charles had just finished with Alfa Romeo. What was it? Where was he last year?
It was Sauber before.
Sauber.
Yeah, he just finished with Sauber. He's come over to Ferrari, and he put on the Ferrari shirt, and he went up to the first corner, and there was me. And there was him and his manager. And he turned towards me, and I was taking some photos, and he turned towards me and smiled, and I took this shot. Beautiful shot. Lovely soft focus in the background. And I had it up within 10 minutes. Then I get this email from him. Oh, Kym, I love the picture. Can I share it? And I said, yeah, fire away. So that was good. And then I came to know him a bit better, and I'd shoot more pics, and then we came to an arrangement. And I shoot for 3 drivers. Now I should have. If I was at the track, I'd be shooting for 3 drivers. But yeah, it's nice when they take note, because you do get great access, and you'll get better photos than anyone else, because, as I said before, they know you, they'll look for you, and they'll also invite you. Often with Charles, he'd be doing his little warm-up, and I'll say, can I come in there? He goes, yeah. So I go in there, and all the photographers are sitting outside. They're not getting the shots I'm getting. And not because I'm a better photographer, just because I know the guy and I've been granted extra permission.
So it's all about those connections and those relationships. And of course, like you've kind of mentioned, like when you bump into someone that gives you those opportunities, that's what creates the kind of the next chapters in these journeys. So for the younger photographers out there learning and maybe specifically look at F1 as a sport, what would you say are just some kind of early technical tips or challenges that you might have learned, or things you would say, take a note of this, maybe these are the starter lenses you might want to go towards if you feel like this is the sport that you love and adore the most?
Right, starter lens, you'll get a 70 to 200, and that'll be your workhorse if you only had one lens.
Absolutely.
And you probably need a longer, a 5
I'm glad
or
I've got one of those already. That's a good start.
Have you got a 5 or a 600?
I have no. Like I say, the longest I've got is 200. So that's the next challenge, because I've learned very quickly. It's all good in and around the paddock and you're doing your kind of your branded shoots, but a racetrack, you get good vision as a human, but you realise when you get the lens out, it's a different game.
Yeah. So you need. I've got a 5 and a 6. And I'd normally take a 6. I've also got an 8, but that's mainly for moon photography. But what was the first part of your question? Oh, tips. Okay. So it was drummed into me very early by a couple of the Getty guys. Watch your backgrounds, because really the car's the same at 21 races a year. It's coming towards you, it's going past you, it's 3/4, it's whatever. But the background is the thing that makes it. And so often I'd be editing in the media centre, and a friend from Getty would come past and go, oh, shit, they've got a toilet in the background. Oh, okay, well, that's a shit. Oh, that's shit too. So it was only with lots of repeat reinforcement that I realised that you can't just go and blindly shoot. You're better off walking an extra 200 metres and forgetting anything that's happening in that 200 metres, because sometimes I'll stop and I'll take 10. Oh, what a waste of time. But backgrounds are vital. And this is a great case in point. This shot here, coming out of the Monaco tunnel, is so beautiful. Now, the car's the same every race, but you don't get that lovely lighting and the reflection on the wall and the darkness and the car coming into light. So that's something that every photographer must learn at some point. And I'll be where there'll be a whole lot of photographers who don't know as much as me, and a whole lot who know more than me. And at some point, you've got to just keep looking ahead and saying, what are these blokes that are better than me doing that I'm not doing?
So after a very acclaimed career, a short one in Formula One, but in wildlife photography as well, what's your best shot you've ever taken? Whether it is Formula One or whether it is wildlife or whether it's one of your kids, is that
this one? This one, I didn't realise how good it was until I got back into the media centre after the race. So that, look, there'll be some other ones as well, but everyone's, it's going to stay on the floor. Everyone says, what's your best shot? And that's the one that comes to my mind first, because the cars are coming onto the grid. It's a wet day at Hockenheim. You've got the tyres spinning because the car's moving. There's spray coming off the top, and you've got a full grandstand behind. It's got every single element. And you also see Max Verstappen in the background. The car's coming directly towards me. You can't see that 30 centimetres to my right, there's the guy with the jack. He's waiting for Daniel to pull up, and he's going to jack the car up because they're going onto the grid. So you think, how is that shot possible? Because it's obviously you're not shooting with a 500 or 600 mil lens, because it's not that compressed. So it tends to absolutely floor people who don't know much about the sport. Are you standing on the track? You can't be standing on the track. I am standing on the track. And of course, to get that shot, you have to have access. And I wouldn't have got that in my first year because I was not allowed to do grid on my first year. You don't get grid on the first year. Oh, you can apply for it, but you're rarely going to get it.
Honestly, we've learned so much, and we will definitely. I personally definitely will be coming and bothering you for pictures to get my Instagram onto your level, or even a quarter, or even a little inch towards your level. So when we physically see each other, whenever that is, I'll definitely be coming running. I'll be the one running at you with my phone.
Okay. Just remember, I'll take 15,000 photos over a weekend. I'll keep 1,000, of which hopefully I've got 20 good ones. That's now obviously guys that have been doing it perhaps longer, they might shoot 15,000 to get 3,000 to get 100. I don't know. But you have to shoot, I certainly have to shoot a lot of pictures to get great ones. And really, if I got 5 great ones a race, I'd be pretty bloody happy.
That's honestly, it's so interesting to find out that, what you have to go through and how many pictures you have to take to be able to get those amazing pictures. And your pictures, as I said, on your Instagram, on your site, so forth, is definitely one for people to be able to check out. So just on that, tell our listeners and viewers where they can actually find you and where they can buy your photo books.
Yeah, you'll find me at KymIllman.com, and that's where I do the photo books. You can buy canvas prints. You can do a one-on-one Skype. So you're getting this for nothing, boys. I'd be charging someone for a one-on-one like this, but I'll tell the one-on-ones a lot more than I'll tell you because it doesn't get out.
It's a business. He's an entrepreneur, Dre.
Makes sense.
That's it. Because I used to sponsor Shane Warne, the cricketer, and Warney would always say, I'll go into a press conference and I'll give them 80%. But for the last 20%, the really good stuff, I save that for my sponsors. And I thought, that's clever. You'll also be able to download any of my pics if you want to buy them and get them printed yourself. You can get them at prostarpics.com. And you'll find me on Instagram at Kym Illman and under Kym Illman on YouTube for probably about, I think I've got about 40 or 50 videos up there now. Working on a new one. I'm going to do one on autographs because I think that's of interest to people, and on the 10 team principles.
It's really, honestly.
I like team principles idea. Fair enough.
Well, does Toto stay still enough for you to be able to take a picture of him? I find it quite nervous to be able to take a picture with.
No, I got plenty of Toto. Probably haven't got that many of Otmar Safnauer. He's my weak link in the chain. Got lots of Claire, got lots of Mattia, and some stories about Mattia, which are good. Franz Tost is always lovely and smiley towards me. And Cyril is a bit of a character. I like Cyril. I like that awkward interaction on Netflix, Strive to Survive Series 1.
Oh, that was brilliant. He
and Christian. I think Christian is probably the most savvy on Instagram, without a doubt. Some of them don't do anything on Instagram, but Christian's a pretty out there guy.
They're far too busy. We appreciate your time, and we've learned so much. And thank you so much for allowing us to be able to delve into your career and your brain and everything. I really, really, really appreciate that.
It is my pleasure, gentlemen.
Guys, make sure you keep on looking out for new videos and content on Verge Magazine and sports. We'll put the links down below for all Kym's amazing ventures. And we will catch you the next time. Peace.
Cheers.